Sandro Calvani, the president of our scientific committee. Coming from Bangkok, also for you, not only for you. to close this session and to tell you about his experience. He worked with the United Nations, very high level, responsible for Southeast Asia, and have a lot of things to tell you. In 15 minutes, of course, but if you want to ask something about his experience, it's an amazing experience. Thank you, Sandro, for joining us.
First of all, thanks for inviting me, giving me an opportunity to be with you. It's always, for me, great emotion to be among the young people, because I understand that if I'm able to share with you some of my dreams, there is more hope for me, for my dreams to be realized once again. I had my turn during these 30 years of active life of my career. I started with the largest Italian NGO at that time, which was Caritas, and I was the head of foreign aid. I created the foreign aid of Caritas. We were running at that time around 70 million euro per year. I understand now there are other NGOs in Italy who are making a bigger budget. At that time it was the biggest one available. And later on I joined the United Nations because I understood that there was a great need also to change the policy. It was not only a matter of acting in the field, but also to make sure that that need was going to diminish in the future. The world is gone, as you know. It's not gone how we were expecting. I'm a product of the dreams of the '68. Somebody heard about the great movement. I am a Genoese from Genoa, town in the north, and I was inspired by all the dreams of that time. Some of them were a good fundament, like, for example, Fabrizio De André, who was a dreamer, and I was inspired by him. But while I was starting my teaching time in the university, the Red Brigades in Italy had another way to deal with change, which was about violent change. There was shooting in my university, and they're still present. Whenever I enter university, I have this image in my eyes of one of my colleagues shot by the Red Brigades in front of the classroom. To teach a class, a real class to the student, the change requires big change, and sometimes it requires to lose the life. The confusion in my mind, of course, increased day by day. Those were the beginning of the 70s and the middle of the 70s. It was all over the world. The richest countries of the world were asking themselves, where are we going to? To the end of the Vietnam War. Millions of people were leaving Vietnam shores to look for freedom. And the Americans understood they were going, the strongest military power in the world, they were going to lose the war. And I happened to go and listen one of the greatest minds of my time, Martin Luther King. It was in a church in New York. And he was invited by the priest of that church because the priest understood that the youth were lost. What the hell are we doing? We are willing to lose the lives of our youth in Vietnam to affirm international right, the right of people of freedom that communist was not allowing. So we are going to lose lives, and then we're losing thousands and thousands of lives to affirm that fundamental right. At the same time, Martin Luther King was saying we need a structural change, because here in the United States we are not respecting those rights that we wish to affirm at international level. At the end of the speech, he told to his wife that he was afraid that something was going to happen to him like it happened to John Kennedy. And he said, they're going to kill me too, told his wife. And his wife told him why. And she told, and he told to his wife, they're going to kill me because this country is sick. Because there is a sickness that they cannot understand, that human DNA needs dialogue, needs to communicate. In order to be happy, we have to be together. And since they don't get it, they're sick and they will kill you. It was the sickness of contradiction. And we are hoping at that time, the year after, the United Nations declared the International Covenant of Civil Rights, civil and political rights. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was 1948, was becoming a treaty. That means it was binding countries committed to do it, and became international law. That means that if you don't respect it, something will happen to you. That's why our dream was really big. I started my studies in biological science because one of my professors inspired me, and I wanted to understand the basic of life, the real fundamental basis to start from scratch. I could not believe anybody. I could not believe my father, who was a former pilot of the Italian Air Force, very young and military. I could not believe my teachers in my high school, in my university, and so on. And I was lucky that they invited me at the Fordham University in New York. At that time, it was the beginning of electronic microscopy. So it was the first time that we could go deep in human life and go down, down, down to the very source of the energy of life. So we could see the mitochondria. If you've never seen it, mitochondria, spend 1 hour. There is one video on the Harvard school who has presented how it works. It looks a chaos. This is the source of energy of life. It inspired me to understand that life is about collaboration. At that level, 10 angstrom, which means 10 million part of a millimeter, you understand that everything looks chaotic, but actually all life existing on this planet is based on collaboration. There are no walls, there are only membranes. Membranes are the masters of osmosis. That means exchanging resources, essence, between one side and the other side of the membrane, but it's not a wall. It's just a way to facilitate an exchange. And then it what inspired my life, and then I started this international cooperation as soon as I graduated. And I want to tell you one thing more, if I still the time, that might happen to you very soon. My friend told me, oh, you're very good in the lab. So apply for a big scholarship so you can become a PhD and go to the United States. And so they insisted for me to apply to the Fulbright. At that time there was no Erasmus. So Fulbright was the best scholarship available in Italy. And they told me, you are very lucky, you will get it because they give one in Italy every 200 applicants. So I had 0.5% probability of making it. But they convinced me, my friend, that they could make it. So I applied and I did all the exam and all the tests and interviews and so on. Well, it was a big failure. I arrived second. It was the saddest, the most sad day of my life. I failed. Somebody else won, and I did not win. How sad was that day? But for the first time in the history of the Fulbright Hay Scholarship in Europe, the one who won, for personal reason, was not able to accept. So they took the second one. And here you learn that you have to embrace, hug the reality. The day after the most sad day of my life, it was the most happy day of my life. Embrace the reality, even when it looks very sad, because if you are authentic in that hug, you will find fantastic surprise in that hug. Embrace the reality. And then, of course, I started my network there in the United States, and then I came back. I decided to dedicate my life to international aid, and I started to travel around the world. With Caritas at that time, I visited 60 countries, 63 countries in situation of war, and natural disasters. Then I moved to the United Nations, and I visited another 70 for a total of 135 in my life. And I think that I have now a good observatory. I took a good selfie of humankind visiting all over. And incredibly, my brain has expanded in a way that I can remember all the faces of those who were making a difference to their village. Of course, the faces that I can never forget every night when I go to sleep or every morning when I wake up are those who went so far to lose their life. Some of them were Italians, doctors, Médecins Sans Frontières, Médecins Sans Frontières, who lost their life in the activity. Some other were my colleagues from the beneficiary countries. In Colombia, the organized crime was very unhappy of my successful program to replace illicit crops, because people were following the United Nations, trying to plant cocoa and coffee and other crops to replace coca and to avoid cocaine. So people were joining us. As soon as 1/3 of the people joined us in the valleys of Medellin, the organized crime and the terrorists of FARC, Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia, were very unhappy. So I identified all the leaders that I trained in order to start this new alternative development. And since it was a Catholic country, they went to the church of the village. They called them with the loudspeaker when they came out of this Holy Mass on Sunday, together with the family and the children. They called them by name and surname. People were surprised. Maybe there is an award of the United Nations. Why are they calling my name? Because they had just signed this agreement with the UN to get out of coca and to get into legal life. They were called out, coming out of the Holy Mass. They were put on their knees on the stairs outside the church, and they were shot one by one in the head in front of the children and the spouses. Another very big failure. To cry forever, to resign from the United Nations. And I was tempted. I removed all my staff because they were no longer the security situation. Brought all of them back to the capital. Then 6 months later, the parish priest of that parish church called me, Sandro, we are going to start again. Are you crazy? They're shooting us. We are not armed. We don't use that kind of language. He told me, you know, 1/3 of them had already signed. Yes, but they're dead. No, they're not dead. Because we have the sisters, the wives, the father and the mother who are committed on the signature of the dead. And now we don't have 1/3. We have 75% of the population. Wow, we are risking much more this time. And the priest told me, no, we are not risking, because we are sending our youth, our 10, 12, 13 years old children in the mountain to tell to FARC, come, if you want to have a fight, we are ready. We are 7 or 8 out of the village, we are 75 of the population. You want to have a fight, we are ready. The FARC left. The project started. At that point, the Minister of Defense, Juan Carlos Santos, told me, we are going on the right way. Later, he became the president. A month ago, he signed the peace with FARC. Because somebody was brave enough to challenge the situation. You have that knowledge. You have acquired that knowledge during these courses. You've got very good teachers and people who have very good experience. You are now better than Google Scholar or better than Google Search. You have a lot of information in your mind. Well, if you don't move that information from your logical intelligence to your emotional intelligence side of your brain, if you don't charge your heart, your hands, your legs, your will, you lost a lot of money and a lot of time, because the world is changed by walking the walk, not by talking the talk. Only action and presence is able to convince the others. It's not about speeches, it's not about Google, it's not about knowledge. It's about how you live your life. We all know one fundamental thing that applies to all over the world, even to the youngest of you, to those who understand in the eyes, are understanding me. There is only one chance that you have in your life. You are going to live only once. I live in an area of the world where they think that you reincarnate, but I'm not so sure that will really happen. So you have only one chance. And the real happiness is about living in a way that you represent the change. You change yourself. By changing yourself, you change what is around you. And then you will become older too. You don't stay young all your life. And the greatest happiness is when you are old enough, like I am, being able to tell your grandchildren, I'm delivering to you a world better than what I found.